Hello, everyone, and welcome to Debating Grounds. So, as we have said in our opening ceremony, that Debating Grounds would be an exciting sets of debate matches or debate rounds or whatever you call it. So, for our very first debating match, we have a very, very interesting motion, which the Vice Chairman Finder Rahman beforehand in the opening ceremony, but I would like to repeat once again. So the motion for the first debate match is this House will allow people to opt in to drugs that have not yet passed clinical trials. So this is the motion for our opening round. And from the government side, we have Mehadi Hasan, Kabir, and Nigar Shahjahan. And from the opposition, we have Pallob Poddar, Sanjana Tasmia, Monjurul Shuvro. So, to all the audience who is watching right now, I would like to request all of you guys to listen to the arguments given out by each speaker and mention the team who you think actually won the debate in the comment section below. All right, we would be very much reading out all the comments. Uh, Furthermore, I think we shouldn't waste any time and we should straight up head to our first speaker. So we would be having the first speaker from the government side, that is Nigar. So Nigar, the floor is all yours. Let us begin. Let the debate begin.
Thank you, Sultan. I will be starting in three, two, one. Today, our motion stands. This House will allow people to opt into drugs that have not yet passed clinical trials. Let us first look at what we understand by the term clinical trial. As defined by World Health Organization, clinical trials are a type of research that studies new tests and treatments and evaluates their effect on human health outcomes. It involves four phases before being approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Phase 1 tests new drugs for the first time in a small group of people. Phase 2 studies test treatments that have been found to be safe in Phase 1. Phase 3 studies are conducted on large population and in different regions. And finally, Phase 4 includes studies that take place after country approval. The main aims of clinical trial are 1. To learn whether the drugs work effectively, and 2. Whether they are safe enough before supplying to the mass population. From this basic definition of clinical trial, we can observe that it is a lengthy, time-consuming, and costly process. Not only that, determining appropriate design for the trial, finding right volunteers, and testing whether they qualify for the test, and getting approval from countries for conducting the test is even farther lengthy. These lengthy trials run the risk of loss to follow-up. Hence, if loss to follow-up is different from one of the exposure outcome categories, the research statistics and measures will be biased. In our world, we are not forcing people to take drugs before passing the clinical trial. We are simply providing people with an option to choose to use drugs that have not yet passed clinical trial. By the code, clinical trial, by the code, have not yet passed clinical trial, we represent two possible scenarios. One, it has passed the extensive preclinical studies in the research laboratory, and two, it has not yet completed all the four mentioned phases of the clinical trials and have not yet been officially approved by the FDA. We have to keep in mind that clinical trials are simply research statistics on a small sample size, which do not necessarily provide 100% guarantee of being error-free. It simply is conducted to enhance reliability. Moreover, in our world, there are two scenarios when it becomes so important for individuals to take drugs before it passes the clinical trial. Number one, in case of people diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. And number two, at times of emergency, and the best example can be the coronavirus pandemic, where some drugs were provided the option to be opted before it passed the complete clinical trial process. In these scenarios, we're providing people with the option to choose to take necessary drugs that might have the ability to save their lives. We want to emphasize on the urgency and desperate situations where this option can be proven to be helpful. If people are not provided with this option, research and development would be in a rush. And in order to conduct the clinical trial, drug research would be fast and shortened, like the COVID-19 vaccine, which in usual scenario takes 6 to 7 years minimum. As a result of the rush, further research might not be carried out, which is a vital aspect of the research for a drug. Hence, we believe that we support allowing people to opt into drugs that have not yet passed clinical trials. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nigar Apu. That was like an amazing and wonderful speech. And I believe that that has set out a very, very strong point in regards to arguments given out by the government. But let's see what the opposition has to say. So the first speaker from the opposition side is Pallob Poddar. So, Pallob, you may begin.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. So the government side case is that since they're large, threatening disease and might have the ability to save many people's lives. So this clinical trial should be rushed, and they gave example of COVID-19, right? So first of all, understand that COVID-19 completed the clinical trial, all those three phases, right? So if you claim that people was given this vaccine when it was in clinical trial, then it's completely false, right? The reason they are claiming such thing is because the vaccine process was shortened. It was because the phases were overlapped, right? Such as second phase and third phase, and also the manufacturing process and distribution process. Those processes were overlapped with each other. That's why it was possible to invent the vaccine in like 1 year. Otherwise it would be like 6 to 7 years, right? So that's what we are talking about. Also, we are our primary case is that at maximum what you can do is you can shorten the time, you can overlap those things, but by no means you can release a vaccine which is still under clinical trials, right? So that's the point. And why do we think that we shouldn't do such thing, and why do you think that why clinical trial is so important, right? So they have said that clinical trial consists of like 4 phases, but it's largely consists of 3 phases. So in second phase we see that a small amount of volunteers participate and take those drugs, right? So small amount, like 50 people, right? And then we have this third phase, like where we give the vaccine to majority of people, like thousands of people, which consists the third trial phase, right? So what do we get from this second phase and third phase, and why we should give proper time to analyze, right? This debate is all about time. If you are saying that we won't give the time to research and to analyze the data, then you won't get the necessary facts about how to save those lives, right? So we believe that we should give those time, because understand that every person, every human life is different, right? So if you you might have done this you might have done this process with a handful amount of people, but you need to specify the certain age groups or certain demographic people, right? So one vaccine have different reactions in some age groups and different reactions in other age groups, right? So that's why we believe that you need if we give proper time to these clinical trials, then we can generate maximum outcome, and we can see that how it's reacting to those age group and to those demographic people, right? And also they have said that government side that we will allow the people to choose, right? So if they're saying that if the people's right, and since it's a life-threatening disease, so this choice should be there, right? But understand that it can create a massive amount of pressure to the research committee. How? Because if someone is claiming, look, I mean so urgency and I need this vaccine, then it can create a trend to other people, right? People who have lots of money and people like those, then they will buy the vaccine, and then if it becomes a trend, then the research committee or the pharmaceutical company will be under so much pressure that they need to release those vaccine earlier. But we are talking about time here, that you cannot release those vaccine to people to earlier, because you need those specific research data to further upgrade your vaccine, right? So what we have seen from COVID-19 vaccine also, that I mean it can lead to some side effects such as like blood clotting, right? So and it's still under examination, right? So that's why, and also we have seen that there are a lot of variety of strains of virus, such as UK strain or South African strain. So that's why we need to give proper time to those clinical phases, and we also need to complete the third phase, which is essential, where you are examining thousands of people. Then you can actually come up with a decision, right? And second argument is that this clinical trial is so important, because if you don't do this, then people can associate other side effects with this vaccine, and they will promote or pitch like propagandas and false beliefs, right? So understand that if someone claims that this vaccine has this side effect, then you can show them the clinical trial data that no, we have seen this amount of side effects, but not this side effects, right? So people cannot claim such false things, and you understand that there was a massive uprising against COVID vaccine also. I mean, groups like QAnon and Trump supporters, they said that vaccine isn't essential for us, and there are lots of misinformation and propaganda. So people cannot associate with these things if you give these clinical phases the ample amount of time, right? And understand that our third argument is that it will be cost efficient for the pharmaceutical companies, right? Because the pharmaceutical companies decide in which amount they should produce the vaccine on the basis of these clinical trials and efficacy level, right? So if you are saying that this vaccine has 70% efficacy level or 60%, then you are assured that you can manufacture this in a large amount. But if you don't give the time, then you cannot determine the efficacy level, and then you will like release the vaccine, and then you suddenly see this vaccine doesn't work like that, what we thought in the theoretical process, right? So then you need to cancel those manufacturing process, and you need to start over again to upgrade the vaccine, right? But this doesn't happen in our world, because you have those data, and you can choose which amount you should produce, right? So that's why we have showed you three parts. One is like it can lead to side effects, and people cannot spread misinformation, and it will be cost efficient. So proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Like, that was an amazing set of arguments. The way you have dissected the argument into three points and very, very well done. Up next, we have like the second speaker from the government side. That is Mehadi Hasan. So, if you could please begin your speak. The second speaker of the government side, Mehadi Hasan.
Hello, am I audible? Okay. So I'm studying in an emergency
Yes, you are. You are.
pandemic. A vaccine or any kind of cure is the number one priority. The opportunity cost of not allowing a probable vaccine, which might save lives, is higher than not allowing a vaccine rollout. If we can save a life, which is sufficient and which is a sufficient necessary condition, and a strong argument for skipping a trial phase or skipping the trial phase, the final trial phase. And in our argument, we are arguing that we want to skip the last trial phases because it is not necessarily for medical purposes. It is only for statistical purposes, which the opposition also agreed. The point for opposition was that they do not want to roll out the vaccine too early because of the timing issues, because of the efficiency rate, and mostly because of the statistical importance. But the point is that understand that the impact of delaying the virus, the vaccine, the impact of delaying the vaccine rollout is that each day passes and more people will be affected by it, and more people will be helpless because as there is no probable vaccine to cure that. Imagine a person
I think Mehadi had some technical difficulties.
I believe there might be an internet issue. Uh,
Hello, am I available?
yes, yes,
He's
yes. I think there was a technical issue. That is
Starting
not a
from the
problem
point
at
I
all.
stopped.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Imagine the desperation and helplessness one feel when he has no cure for COVID. And imagine if we can stop those desperate people by handing a vaccine which they will be willing to take because there is no another alternative for that. And what we are proposing by skipping the last phase of the clinical trial phase is because uh, we are providing a much more needed vaccine which optional for them and which we are providing because that is not already, and the opportunity cost is higher. And the importance of the last clinical trial phase is because it is not any medical purposes, because the medical purposes are completed in the first two phases of the clinical trial phases, because and those okay.
Thank you so.
So, okay, because of the clinical trial processes and the importance of the last phase of clinical trial is only statistical, and what the opposition tried to argue that they need more timing because to ensure the efficiency and the efficacy by giving it to different age limit and different sample sizes. So the main important fact they are trying to do is just to increase their sample size and to create a normal distribution for those for ensuring the efficiency. But what we are trying to say is that the importance in whole R&D and research process of the importance of last phase of clinical trial in this whole R&D is that it is only of it can only change so little because the first two phases changes almost ensures almost 95% to 96%, and if the clinical study proves against the first argument, then it can change the efficiency rate by 93 to 94%. So the importance is not so the effect is not so important. So what we are trying to say is that we need to give vaccine rollout and we need to keep the research and development ongoing. It's not like that we are rolling them out and stopping the research and development processes. We are giving them as a process, as a last process of clinical trials and increasing the sample sizes. And thank you.
Thank you so very much. I believe that there were a few technical difficulties. I think I myself am facing a bit of technical difficulties, but it's okay. It's our country has a bit of issues in regards to the internet. But I believe we can go ahead to the second speaker of the opposition side, that is Shuvro. Shuvro, if you like to begin your speech.
Can everybody hear me properly?
Yes, you're very much audible.
Okay. Starting in 3, 2, 1. So, in the whole debate, what we have learned from the government side is that they just want to speed up the whole process of providing vaccines or medicines to the people who are desperately in need of it. But the whole debate boils down to the simple basic point. What will happen to safety in the times of desperation, in the time of desperate needs? This isn't a time of war with another country. This is a time of war with medical science itself. We need to ensure the safety of general people, and we also need to ensure in the most probable ethical way possible, thinking of the side effects in mind. Now, if we think about the whole process the government side is proposing is this, that after the first two phases, and the third phase when it is going to get approval from the FDA, that we will skip that process and we will directly go into distribution. Now, what is that bad? In their scenario, what they're talking about is this: how getting approval takes longer than takes long time, and how it's very much problematic for individuals who need this attention desperately at this moment. But we've seen that is not the scenario for COVID-19, right? We've seen that how vaccines were approved instantly when it had showed probable, and how it actually also passed in parliaments in order to be distributed among the individuals, right? So then now the most simplest thing it boils down to is, what do we want in order to ensure safety in all those individuals who need this, right? Now, as the opposition, we solely believe in that each medicine or each vaccine needs to go through a process through which we can ensure that all these medicines and all these vaccines have a much adverse side effect than it was supposed to have, right? We do not want people is much more than they are at this moment, right? What we want to do is that these individuals who will get access to this medicine and these vaccines need to have a success rate, right? If these individuals, by taking these medicines and vaccines in the first place, gets much more sick, then who will be accountable for that? If we also speed up this process, and if all these individuals get this medicines in their hand at the moment they want it, their own individual needs, then it also we also need to ask this question to ourselves: how do we know that individual has the knowledge and the capacity to understand that the results that was published was actually important enough, or has a good result in order to actually take those things, and what that individual, does he or she has the capacity to understand that if that medicine is actually applicable for their own personal health, right? Because we do understand that not every individual has the same does not need the same kind of medical attention that everybody needs, right? And that is why we believe that this whole process needs to be vetted much more vigorously as possible, right? And we have seen that how it has occurred, right? We have seen in Canada that how the government always interfere in this kind of clinical trials, right? In order to ensure that these success rates and these trials results that they're publishing has to be accurate. So this is only done because due to the welfare of the people in mind. People do not want to get much more sick. People do want to save people's life, but in the government case, in the government scenarios, they are putting much more people at risk, and also letting those individuals be much more at risk to the system itself. And now, as the opposition, we do not believe in such. What do we believe in is this: that we have seen that how efficiently the COVID vaccine process has been opted into, right? We've seen how governments are now using their most efficient distribution channels in order to import those vaccines or export those vaccines, right? And we've seen that how this government has also been using those overlapping stages in order to ensure that these individuals get the fast access to these vaccines, right? We have seen that this is being done. This is not a past thing right now. But let me give you a scenario where this was not happening. Let me give you a scenario where these vaccines were not tested. We do not know this efficacy level. We do not know how much people it was tested on, but we do know that it was showing some success. Right. In that stage, as citizens, what should we do? Should we just read a report and actually take those vaccines? Because we do see that how anti-vaxxers still do not believe those results that has been published. People still spreading propagandas that how the vaccines are not safe, how these vaccines can alter our DNA itself, right? And we've seen that how people still do these vaccines despite all these test results, that how these vaccines are effective. The individuals come up to their own mind and they're spread propagandas, right? Still has clinical trials and still this problem exists. Now, in their world, we still see that if they believe these propagandas will not exist, then die, right? Because this propaganda will still, people will start to disbelieve in itself, because they do not have the FDA approval. They will not have the sufficient approval from the government. Will not have the global recognition, right? Then what will happen in that scenario, right? This can happen in two ways. Either the individual will get much more will be will get much more healthier, or that person might get sick, right? This is the alternatives that is happen. Now, if the trade-off of a person to have a medicine is going to happen to be 50-50 or 50-60 or 40-60 or 70-30, right? So if there's a chance of that individual taking the medicine to get much more sick, then we believe that the opposition that those medicines should not be approved in the first place, right? And that is why we believe that all those medicine needs to be clinically tested at first, and then they need to be passed in order to ensure that the individuals who are going to get this medicine will have access to this medicine, will actually help themselves, right? We do not want to create a world system where we will just we're going to leave the medical system openly to those individuals who believe that they were going to have a 50-50 chance of surviving, right? We do not believe in that world, and we do believe that the stakeholders in this motion needs to be taken proper care of, because these are the individuals who are the victim of the system itself, and it is our duty to, in order to protect themselves, in also from themselves in the times of desperate measures, right? And this is why we believe that these individuals should not get access to this in the first place. Now, what the opposition side has told you is this: in order to understand the full side effects, which the government side has been telling that it will be shown in the first tools, right? But this is not always the scenario, right? We also see that there are some levels of standards that the government needs to ensure before they approve the test, before they approve a drug, right? So this is also not true. So we do believe that there are cases of side effects that can happen, and we do believe that is going to create a much more bigger issue than the problem that exists in the right scenario at this moment. We're also talking about how the verification process and how to tackle the propagandas are much more important than scenarios like this, because people do not want to trust these pharmaceutical companies, right? So in order to give them the validation or the verification, and also to ensure that propagandas are being taken in control, these drugs or these vaccines needs to be passed at first, right? And also, we are also telling you that how getting the approval in the first case will actually help make the whole system much more efficient, because after getting the approval, these pharmaceutical companies can easily roll out their medicine, whatever there, and that will create, and then also started the process before, right? Like how we have talked about how the corona vaccines were distribution channels were made first, right? Before the vaccine was even rolled out in the first place. So in these cases, we have seen that how the efficient channels were created, and how it is much more efficient for those companies and also those individuals itself, and how they have now trust on the vaccines itself, right? So we believe in a world where these individuals should have access to those vaccines or to those medicines at that moment when it is being approved by the governing body, because we believe that safety should come first, also in the time of desperate needs. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Shuvro. I mean, that was a phenomenal speech, I have to say. That was an amazing speech. The way you set out your arguments, the way you brought out your points, those are very, very strong points to counteract against. And for that, we have the last speaker and the third speaker from the government side. That is our very own Mahatab Kabir Khandakar. So Mahatab, the floor is all yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Siddhant. Thank you for giving me the floor. I would first like to clarify certain things in this debate. Firstly, this debate is not about giving the drug to individuals after the clinical trials have already been passed. What do I mean by this? The opposition believes that the only way to let individuals opt into the drug is to let the clinical trial finish, and thus what will happen is that most of the research and most of the findings of the research or the clinical trials will be heavily rushed, and hence it's going to be extremely detrimental to the people who use that drug. But that is not the case. As our first speaker has already told you, we are only giving individuals an option to opt into the drug before the clinical trial has already finished. What do I mean by this? By this, I mean that probably the clinical trial is at its phase 2 or is at its phase 3. It's not at its completion as of yet, but certain individuals have the agency and the choice to go to hospitals and tell the hospitals that, look, I'm in imminent need of this drug. I'm in an imminent need to take that vaccine because my life is in danger. What will happen afterwards? The hospital or wherever you go for that vaccine or drug will give you a consent form and let you know that, look, this drug has not yet passed the clinical trials, which means you are consenting to take a drug that has not yet passed clinical trials. It's not very different from the consent forms that we already get into hospitals before taking a surgery. And to be very honest, the situations that have been described today are not very different from a surgery, right? It's very analogical. Because what kind of patients come into the hospital and sign that consent form where it says that any sort of like consequences that eventually might also lead to fatality is not the problem of the hospital? Why does individuals still opt into surgeries even after there is a high possibility of them of those surgeries being fatal? Because they were in extreme imminent needs, which means the reason why this is so very important is because these are the individuals who needs that vaccine right now, because when they see that they're affected by certain viruses or when they're affected by certain diseases that require immediate and imminent attention, that is exactly when they will go to those hospitals. But understand that the side opposition has completely misunderstood what we were trying to say. We were trying to like bring out the example of the COVID-19 and tell you that, look, exactly what happened. Most of the clinical trials were heavily rushed because the governments had an immediate need of that drug, right? If there was an option for individuals to opt into that drug before the clinical trials had passed, then this research and development would not have been rushed. What do I mean by this? Like, even if you say that there has been a lot of overlapping of transmission, distribution, and generation of these drugs and vaccines, it's and even if you say that they did get the FDA approval, they did get the international and national approvals, understand that the reason why they got all these approvals so fast is because everyone understood the imminent need. And that is exactly why it is very problematic. Because the reason why these sorts of approvals take a lot of time is because of the background checks and the research that these like companies do before giving you that approval, right? But these certain researches has not been done to this vaccine because every single government was like pushing forward to get these approvals. They were telling them, we need these approvals. We need to give people the vaccine because there are lives in stake, right? And hence, that is the exact reason why we want like the people who are in immediate danger to have that opportunity to go and opt into the drug even before the clinical trials have yet been passed. What is going to happen at that certain point? At least if we can save one person, at least if we can save like one individual who would have whose situation would have been fatal in these circumstances because they had to wait to have these clinical trials pass, we think that we won the debate, because that is exactly what we're pushing for. But then again, let's handle some other things that the side opposition has said. They said that, look, people are going to spread a lot of rumors and not taken. People are going to spread a lot of rumors. They're going to spread a lot of propagandas. First of all, understand that these rumors and propagandas are not essentially linked to the exact side effects of the drug or the exact side effects of the vaccine. Most of these propagandas are probably political, they're probably religious, and there are like multitudes of reasons why these propagandas occur, right? And even if you think that you wait for the clinical trials to occur, these propagandas will keep on happening because the people who spread these propagandas, they spread these propagandas on other beliefs. They're not just going to see statistics and a huge like sample size and be like, oh, our propagandas are wrong, right? So because that's not how it works. And even if you think that it's easier to sway people to do that, we think our option is better. Because what is the alternative that we give you? The alternative is the clinical trials has started and we see an imminent danger to most of the people around us. So what does the government do? The government gives every single citizen an option to take the drug and make an informed choice on that drug, knowing that the trials has not yet been passed. And then what happens? The research and development still continues, right? The research and development still continues. The vaccine, probably there's going to be 20, 30, 40 versions of the vaccine 6 years later, but it's not going to be 2 or 3 very like non-research versions of these vaccines 6 months or 1 year later, right? We think that is what we're pushing for, because research and development in the medical industry is something that humankind has been striving for for a very long time, right? People literally give off their organs after they die to ensure that medical research is done properly. And we have to ensure that even if people are taking vaccines, at the end of the day, for our future generation, we create a vaccine with proper research so that they don't have to suffer the same consequences and the same side effects that we are suffering. We are letting people make informed choices on the vaccines and the drugs that they're intaking. We are telling them that, look, there is a risk, but if you think that this risk is worth it, then we are going to allow it. We want research and development to go further and further, and we don't want these things to rush at the end of the day. Very proud to be in the government side. I think Zidan had another power loss.
I think I'm here. I think there was a bit of technical difficulties, but that was a quick comeback from my side. But wonderful speech, Mahatab. Wonderful way that you said arguments. The debate, this is the debate. As I was saying, that as the idea is to make the audience more aware of the given motion that we have, I think that we should entertain the PY that Paulo was about to ask you. So Paulo, you can go ahead with the PY.
Should I ask it now?
Yes, sure.
Okay, in terms of pandemic like COVID-19, there are a lot of people who needs those vaccines immediately, right? So I mean, will you give all of them? Then the side effects can, have those impacts on them, right?
So the thing is, it's not about like the government nationalizing the entire thing and providing the vaccines, because what are we seeing currently? Like, you need to register for the vaccine, right? It's something that you have to take eventually. So it's not like you're giving them the option to opt into this system. You're telling them to opt into this system. So that is the distinction here. In our world, we're just giving you an option to take the drug if you want to take the drug. But currently in the status quo, we see that the process that it occurs is the government is telling you to take that vaccine. People are encouraging you to take that vaccine. I don't think that is going to happen necessarily in our world. We think there's just going to be an option for you to take that drug to ensure that if you feel like your life is very threatened and if you feel like you need to do that, then you're going to take that, right? Because like, what are we seeing in most surgery cases, right? The doctor tells you that like there's a 50% chance you're probably not going to survive, right? But you still take that surgery because you want to take that chance. So if people are taking an informed choice on that, I think that's perfectly fine.
All right. Do you have any other PYs for Mahatab?
No, not now.
All right. I feel there is none. So we can move on to our last speaker from the opposition. We have Sanjana. So the floor is all yours, Sanjana.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Here it comes. The motion. This House will not allow people to opt into drugs that have not yet passed clinical trials. Okay, Here it comes from the first speaker from the government side, which I have heard that treatment and effects means according means the definition which one has been described by the first speaker of from the government side, that treatment and effects these two sides are studied by clinical trial means in clinical trial these two sides are scrutinized properly. So it's a very common sense and very usual that definitely treatment and other side effects must be scrutinized, must be researched on this. So here the definition is just going with this. Okay, the next comes this next point, which one comes here, time consuming. Yes, this one is very usable, this one is a common sense, a normal thing that it is time consuming. Definitely it will, because if a person is vaccinated, if a person is going through vaccination, for that means how will it be given, how will not be given, where will it be given, the process, everything. Definitely the deep research and deep studies, these things of size are needed, deep research is definitely needed. So it will be definitely, it will be a very common sense that it will be time consuming, right? It is usual that it will be time consuming because time is needed for everything. Here next comes regarding the three phases. Okay, yeah, three phases which have been described that from the first speaker, that safety, whether it's safe or not. Actually, to understand the safety, whether it's safe or not. So phase one is just discussing about this. That means the dose, means how at what level dose will be applied. It also involves means what kind of people will be means to which people, to what levels people background will be checked here. In phase one, the overall means the initial judgment is done in phase one. Next goes for phase two. Doses are always researched. Okay, further in phase two, doses are researched. Okay, treating, preventing, diagnosing, these are of means these all are done in phase two. Next comes in phase three, 1 to 4 years deep research is needed. Actually, in phase one, new treatment is found, like whether new treatment can be given or not. And after 4 to 4 years research, new treatment, will it be applicable? Is new treatment is new treatment working with this or not? Is new treatment really going through this, or is really needed in this, is really suitable here or not? This one is always done in 1 to 4 years research. So this research will also be taken, this research is also needed, right? So I would like to say that first speaker was going kind of with in favor of the just with was going with our, I would like to say that they were not, I mean, she was not discussing about this house will not allow, about this she was discussing this house will not allow, but this house will allow, she was not discussing about this, she was kind of going in favor of opposition. Okay, this one is actually which one I have noticed. It will be actually the next concept, it will be risky. Means this one has been said by the first speaker that it will be risky. Okay, fine, it will be risky for all the people if it is applied, but will it not be more risky? Will it not be more risky if trials are not, if without trials these are applied, if without trials these are judged, if without trials these are going through? So definitely it will be more risky, right? So it will be risky when trial is going, but it will be more risky when trials are not given. So it is useful. Next come COVID-19. This one about COVID-19. Okay, this one COVID-19 was actually within a very short time. This COVID-19 vaccination has been discovered, has been invented. Why? Because people were in urgent need of this, right? People were in urgent need of this. They were going with short term. They have gone with this short term. That's why scientists have researched earlier, as soon as possible. They have tried to gone through this. They have tried to go through this. Next comes that it was short trials. Yes, short trials. These are okay. Miss, as she has already discussed about this, I mean, she has discussed in favor of opposition almost. Short trials are okay. Short trials are okay. But if short trials are, Miss, will short trials be able to report all these consequences with final visibility? I would like to say that with short trials, means if short trials are provided, she has said that the short trials should be given. If short trials are provided to go with, so will all the consequences will come into this visibility? Will all the consequences will the, all the consequences result this? Definitely, all the consequences will not be invisibility, or will all the consequences will not be amongst us, or will people will not be able to fight with this, because short trials are not given any kind of proper scrutinization. Short trials are not given all the results or proper results. Example, COVID-19. See, means actually many people are also dying in many countries. Many people are, means almost more or less all the people are going with some side effects, right? They are going with some side effects, more or less all the people. So here, due to this, why this one has happened, that side effects are huge at huge levels. Short trials means actually due to short term trial has not been properly scrutinized, trial has not been properly given due to people's demand. This one has just gone through this, that within a very short time this vaccination has come, for which side effects are very much I would like to say amongst, I mean, in spotlight. Side effects are in spotlight, all the people are suffering more or less. Okay, so if it would be within a very, it would be discovered, I mean, with time or by consuming time, if this vaccination would be found, or if this vaccination would be invented, probably these side effects would not be very much, I mean, it would not be huge, or at a severe level side effects would not come. Okay, next comes from the second speaker that first two phases are the main sites. Okay, first two phases. Okay, first two phases are the main clinical trials, and after first two phases, this medicine can be, or vaccination can be applied, or medicine can be applied, drugs can be applied. Okay, but it third phase, why this one is actually important at huge level? Third phase is very important. Why after first two trials medicine should be applied? Third trial is the main thing. Okay, third trial, because this one is that is to what level people background, checking the background, everything, checking everything. This third trial is applied. Okay, this trial is for 1 to 4 years research. After 1 to 4 years, the proper research will give a new treatment. Okay, a new figure. Okay, if this for research is done earlier, so definitely this third trial will be helping. So first and second trials are always not the in this one is not applicable here. Third trial is also definitely needed. Okay, so this one was from the second speaker which I've heard. Okay, from the third speaker, that according to motion, they miss he said like this, that according to motion, this one is not regarding that after trial to opt or to test the medicine, or to tempt the medicine, to tempt the drug. But actually I have not got any words like this, that after clinical trial like this means. This one is given one kind of clear explanation, that this motion is given one clear direction, that this house will allow people to opt into drugs that have not yet been yet passed clinical trials. But I would like to say that there are no words like that, that after clinical trial. Okay, this one has been said that yet. Okay, so before clinical trial, or no, yes, before clinical trial, what will be the what are the noteworthy, I would like to, what are the needed things? Okay, what are the needed responsibilities? This, and okay, next comes actually the second from third speaker which I've heard. After that, I would like to say that control. Okay, the control means how these are, how everything, how this drug applying drug, or how this application of drug is controlled. Okay, how this is controlled. So control is also needed, right? How clinical trials are being controlled, or clinical trial is always controlled in any term. Okay, clinical trial in any term, clinical trial must be controlled. Okay, it should be brought under control. Next comes about the background and any type of patients. Okay, background, and regarding this I would like to say that people of what age should be applied. Okay, people of what age should be given medicine, people of what age should be given this vaccination, people of what age should be given this drug, actually depending, because with age, with time, reactions increase. Okay, bodies, I mean body's antibody becomes weak, becomes weaker, antibody changes, then reactions also change, everything means reaction goes with means it changes with time. So with that, this medicine or drug must be applied. This drug and medicine must not be applied without judging the people. So background and any type of patient, this must be seen, this must be observed, this must be judged. Here next comes this term medicine. Okay, which medicates people, must be accessible to all. That is it will cure all types of difficulties residing in body, which will make antibody strong. The thing it is, it deals with life. Okay, so definitely effectivity matters, effectivity matters, right? Effectivity is also resulted, effectivity matters, and clinical trials are also mattering here, because clinical, it will work with nation. Okay, it will work with nation. Now comes, is it possible to input during is it possible to input drug without ideas and tests? Definitely without ideas and tests it is not possible to input drug, right? So ideas, test, everything, faced point to point research, point to point, everything is needed. Okay, point to point, each and everything is needed. So I would like to say that I'm just wanting to finish my floor here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjana. That was indeed a brilliant speech. And usually, I feel like at this point in an actual debate, we would have gone for a bit of rebuttals, and at the end of the day, we would have gone for as per which team actually won the debate. But, like, completely speaking from a moderator's point of view, I obviously will not give out like who I feel won the debate, because I would leave that to the audience for them to let us know through comment section. But the way the debate went and the way you guys brought so much relevance in regards to the motion, because I think they we are living in an era where we are consumed by COVID-19 pandemic and vaccines are being distributed around the globe. So I feel at this point of time, such a motion is something which is so relevant to our current point of time. And the way the government brought in their points, the way they brought in their arguments, and the way they presented themselves, it was superb. And at the same time, the way the opposition counteracted some of those points in regards to why it shouldn't be the case. I think even that is also very, very amazing, right? So to all those people who are watching, I feel that you guys got an analysis of the motion. You guys had an idea as per how the debate went and how the debate should have gone, and you guys had some bit of knowledge about whether drug trials are necessary indeed, and how vaccines play a role here, what is the role of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think all those things which we discuss in a day-to-day life, it is very much necessary at times to debate upon it, because not everyone has the same set of opinions, right? Even my opinion can differ at this point of time. That is why we're broadcasting this live to a mass set of audiences. Before we go ahead and see the team with the majority of comments in the comment section, I would like to ask the debaters, guys, how did you feel? How do you think the debate went? I'd like to start with Mahatab because he is from NC Talks. So Mahatab, I want to know from you, what did you think of the debate overall? And
It was a great debate.
before he starts, from all those who are watching, I think you guys are mostly aware of it. Mahatab is also currently serving as a treasurer for North South University Debate Club. So yes, please do go ahead.
It was a very good debate. I think motions like these are very important to talk about, especially because it's very relevant to the current scenario, the vaccines that are getting out, all the propagandas. So, as the opposition team has pointed out very correctly, a lot of things, people are not getting confidence to pharmaceutical companies. There's been a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of loss in confidence by people. So, yeah, I think these kind of discussions are very necessary to happen, especially when people need to have that information that what is happening, what should we do. So in those regards, I think it was a pretty good debate. It was a very relevant debate from my point of view.
Next up, I would like to ask Shuvro here. Shuvro had like really amazing points. So if you like say, how did the debate went from your perspective?
To me, I really see the relevance perspective of this debate, right? Because we all see the urgency, right? Since COVID cases are rising again, and while still people being vaccinated, it's really getting scary again. So, in today's world that we live in, it's very hard to comprehend what is going next. So, in this debate, we have seen that how it was necessary for everybody to gain the vaccine, right? But we've also seen that how, even by accessing the vaccine, it's still not helping us. So, in order to come to a conclusion and in order to get a better tomorrow, what we need is that we need the whole process to get much more effective, and how more nations need to communicate with each other in order to provide much more efficient vaccines, right? Because we've still seen that most companies do not publish their full result. We have seen that how countries do not want to publish their analysis on the whole vaccines, right? So that is problematic, and that is the reason why we believe that we're lacking behind. And this emotion was really intuitive about the fact that we get to see that how we all react to the current situation, and I think that is very important.
All right. And lastly, I would like to ask Pallob, like, what did you think of the debate? Tomar কেমন লাগলো? If you could give your perspective on it.
Well, the debate was relevant to the current scenario, but for me, it was a fun debate. Like, I mean, thanks to NSU Talks and NSU DC for organizing such event. And the main purpose is that to motivate the newcomers in this arena and extracurricular activities. So I felt that we could have done a bit better, but I mean the gist was there. The relevant arguments were there. So I felt that it was a pretty good debate and fun debate overall.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pallob. Thank you so much to all the debaters from both the government and the opposition side. You guys put up some amazing show. You guys brought upon some amazing set of arguments. And I would also like to thank the North-South University Debating Club. And I would like to thank Parinda in particular, who has helped a lot in regards to putting up tonight's show. And so once again, thank you to all the debaters. Thank you to Mahatab, Shuvro, Pallob, Nigar, Mehadi, who isn't here, and Sanjana as well. It was a wonderful show, and that's the beauty of it. Let's see JK Jitse from the audience perspective, right? And you can obviously find it out in the comment section. With that being said, I think it's a good night from us. See you on the 27th of March, which is a Saturday, with the Bangla debating circuit. We would be once again having an interesting show with an interesting motion, but in a different language. So this is a good night from us, and thank you so very much, everyone.